There is a lot we know about Joel Embiid at this point. We know him to be one of the most talented active players in the NBA. We know him to be the face of the Sixers franchise. We also know him to be a guy that is not overly willing to give out compliments. On a breakdown in this video, I am surprised at the amount of praise being showered on Sixers rookie Jared McCain from both Joel Embiid and Nick Nurse himself, as well as what McCain is saying about his new teammates and Joel Embiid specifically. And I have a little bit of more hope than I think most for his outlook with the Sixers team, both in the short and the long term. Now I'm going to start this video off by taking a look at Nick Nurse's specific comments on Jared McCain. Shout out to PHLY Philly guys who did get this down in the Bahamas here. So we'll start with Nurse talking about his rookie and what he's seen so far.
First of all, I continue to really like him. Like, listen, he's got a really good IQ for the game. His toughness level is up there, man. I mean, he's a rapper. He really works at the defensive end. He's one of those guys, too. You're like, man, there's a big pile over there, and he comes out and you're like, how did he do that? Well, he's just one of those guys that does it. He's how he does it, but he's a guy that's got kind of that knack and nose for that. He's got some finesse. He had a good day today. He really had to work. The vets were picking him up and going at him hard the whole time, which is good. And I thought he handled it. It was not easy for him today, but he continued to just keep playing and make it. Yeah.
So really good sign for kind of the compliments that are already coming out of Nurse's mouth here. And I did specifically want to highlight what I think is an even more impressive compliment from Joel Embiid, who said about Jared McCain, quote, "Probably our best player has been Jared McCain. He competes, he's tough, he's a shot maker, he's been shooting the ball extremely well, great energy. I think I think he has a pretty good chance. So far, he's been good. Great personality." And there were a couple other quotes that came along.
First of all, I continue
Specifically talking about how he has a future in this league. Eric Gordon saying that he believes he's going to have a 10-plus year NBA career. There was also a funny joke from Joel Embiid who said how he's kind of like Maxey, that they're always smiling, and I can't figure out why. And I do love that that's kind of the energy with Jared McCain, but I do think that there's some really positive takeaways from the on-court standpoint here, that it feels like he's a Nick Nurse type of player, and that Nurse is already kind of leaning into that. That guy that is willing to scrap, get those loose balls, sort of a Fred VanVleet type archetype of player that we saw had some great success in Toronto under Nurse there. It's kind of cool to me and really telling how he's made his impact felt so far. And there's a couple other quotes that I did want to dive into here. This one, we're going to pull up Jared McCain speaking about Nick Nurse, and he was asked his thoughts on his new coach, and he said that first training camp has been amazing, and continued to say, quote, "I'm getting more comfortable with just playing and having the ball in my hands. Been lucky enough to be on the scout team, so I'm able to handle the ball more, take more shots without risks. I think it's building up my confidence." So I do like this outlook here, playing on the scout team, so not seeing a ton of time with the starters, it seems, at this point. It's very early, and that is a part of the plan. I think we should all acknowledge head on that the game plan with this Jared McCain draft pick is not for it to be the differentiating factor in getting over the championship hump. This will come down to the Joel Embiids, the Paul Georges, even the Tyrese Maxey will be far more crucial role. That is the big three that this team is fully constructed about. But when you do zoom out and think in the long run that there is a place for McCain to potentially provide some spot minutes, be in the rotation if he earns his spot, and in the long run, I do think there's a world where if you zoom out to 2028 or 2029, we're talking about a potential backcourt of Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey. That to me is the real appeal, or what they're looking to develop. You have to have those concepts of thinking both in the short and the long term. Now, as far as for Jared McCain's role, it is interesting to me that he is playing on the scout team. I personally have always viewed him as more of a lead guard, more of a point guard. That wasn't necessarily how he always played at Duke. That was kind of his role in high school and really growing up, but he played more of an off-ball role as a shooter. I do think his shooting is his number one defining skill at this point, but I do buy the instincts, his ability to play make for others and run a true offense, which I would like to see him grow into in the long run. As much as Tyrese Maxey has been excellent at just about every layer of basketball, he's not a guy that I particularly see growing into that true point guard role in the long run. So I wouldn't mind having McCain be that guy that allows Maxey to just get buckets here. Now, a couple other quotes that I did want to dive into. They asked McCain kind of his initial takeaways on what he's seen at the NBA so far, and he said, quote, "Everybody's 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. Everybody is in the gaps, but they can easily get back to you. So I've tried to extend my range. That's something I've been working on with Rico Hines, of course, there. McCain was an active participant in the Rico Hines runs this year, which I think is a great way to get kind of caught up to speed with the NBA pace of play, get familiar with some of these players. And it was cool to see him playing with his new Sixers teammates. So we saw a lot of that this summer. And he continued to say, quote, "Nothing changes mechanically with my shot. I feel like I have a quick release, but just being able to extend my range." And that is something that's incredibly appealing to me. I think the Sixers team over time has had guys like the Tobias Harris of the world that are far too reliant on needing to be a toes on the line 3-point shooter. That's one of my driving forces of excitement for a guy like Eric Gordon, who I think has gone under the radar here, is that is a guy who will extend the range, shoot from 5 feet from beyond the 3-point line or 8 feet from beyond the arc. It's stuff that I think is important to stretching a defense. Spacing is going to continue to be the name of game in a team built around Joel Embiid. So I think it's a great sign of him having his head on shoulders, having that as a focus already. And I do think that's something that is important to this Sixers offense overall. Now, a couple other thoughts from McCain here. He was asked about his experience with Joel Embiid thus far, and this coming from Sam DiGiovanni of Clutch Points in his article here. And he writes quote, or from Jared McCain, quote, "It's a great relationship to start out. He's really cool," McCain said of Embiid. "Been nothing but nice to me. It's just cool building a relationship with one of the best players in the league." Embiid may be gracious to his new teammate, but he's also not letting him get off anything easy. Quote, "This ain't college, Rook," McCain remembers Embiid telling him when he came to a two-step stop that was legal under NCAA rules but not NBA rules. For a hard worker like McCain, a, quote, scrapper, as 76ers head coach Nick Nurse called him, he wouldn't want it any other way. Quote, "It's been amazing getting to know everybody," McCain said. "I'm getting more comfortable with just playing and having the ball in my hands. Been lucky enough to be on the scout team, so I'm able to handle the ball more, take more risks. I think it's building my confidence. I'm showing the best of what I can do and getting more respect." And the last quote that I did want to pull up was McCain being asked about Nick Nurse here. And he says, quote, "In Friday's practice, Nurse drew up a play for McCain to get a game-winning shot in the scrimmage. He had them redo the play, putting more time back on the clock to give everyone another chance on the play. McCain said Nurse has this, quote, this really cool demeanor about him and that he's a, quote, a great guy who sees the game in a detailed way. Quote, "It's been cool to pick his brain about how he sees the game," McCain said of Nurse. "What I'm watching when we're doing something regular, he stops all of practice just to pick on one thing. It's crazy to see how he sees that one specific thing throughout all of practice. I'm excited to learn from him. The rookie road is never easy to travel. There will be bumps and quick turns for McCain to navigate, especially on a team where playing time for a youngster is very far from a guaranteed. Nonetheless, he seems prepared to be one of the most skilled motorists on the road this season." So I'm loving the early return for Jared McCain this season. Again, I do want to temper expectations for this specific year, that I do think that this will ultimately fall on the shoulders of the stars and the more key role players, the Eric Gordons, the Kelly Oubres, potentially the Gershon Yabusele, who's been another guy that has shined in training camp. But I think it's great news to see him in the mix. I think there's kind of this pessimistic outlook on the McCain selection for a lot of Sixers fans. I understand that he isn't exactly what we were picturing, and he's going to constantly be compared to a guy like Dalton Knecht throughout the entirety of his NBA career, fair or foul there. But the reality is, this guy's a really good basketball player, and there is a role for him at the NBA level. He may not be your stylistic type of player. There are the defensive concerns playing next to Tyrese Maxey, but my kind of pushback there is McCain's been a good defender at his size. Yes, that means that he's limited in some of the matchups that he can take, but to use the Dalton Knecht comparison here again, Knecht happens to be 5 or 6 inches bigger, but he's been a bad defender at a bigger size. I'll take the guy that has the abilities and hope that we can work something out here. So we'll see how everything plays out in the long run, but the fact that he seems to be in the mix for minutes, playing with some of the bigger stars of the team and really making an impression on guys like Joel Embiid, who's been very calculated and careful in holding his compliments close to the vest. Certainly not a guy that goes out of his ways to shower his teammates with praise, particularly in past years. So I do think it's a little telling that Joel Embiid is giving these type of quotes already. So we'll keep the expectations tempered for now, but I'm not entirely ruling out Jared McCain becoming more of an impact guy from day one that I think I initially expected. I'm pretty excited by these quotes and do think that there is a bright NBA future for the young fella here. So we'll see how things shake out from now. We are less than, I believe, 18 days at the point of I'm recording this until we have some live basketball to break down. I cannot wait for this season to fully take form and break down every angle of the Sixers team, from Jared McCain to Joel Embiid and everyone in between. So make sure you guys are rocking with me here on Sixers Digest. Smash that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video, any comments you have below. I'll be talking with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.